Sharakaya Takshunmilitham Jena Tasmai Siguruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Madena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mayam Nidatti Swabhadantikam Vandiham Siguro Sijuta Parakamalam Sigurur Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Nitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Cha He Krishna Purna Singha Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namo Ostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Panchakalpachu Vischa Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naramachaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayet Nasta Presho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Today is Thursday, January 30th, 2025. Almost 1/12 of the way through the year, and it has only just begun, it seems. And we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter is number 26. King Paranjana goes to the forest to hunt, and his queen becomes angry. So this is Narada Muni's continuing his analogous presentation of, you could say, the facts of life about the living entity and his entanglement and the material energy. Very enlightening and enlivening if one is in the proper mood to relish this transcendental knowledge. So today we're reading from a text number 7. Ya evam karma niyatam vidvan kurvita manavaha karmana tena rajendra yanina nasalipyate ya evam karma niyatam vidvan kurvita manavaha karmana tena rajendra Jnanena na salipyate. Ya evam karma niyatam. Vidvana kurvita manavaha. Karmanatina rajendra. Jnanena na salipyate.
Ya evam karma niyatam.
Ya evam karma niyatam.
Vidvan kurvita manavaha.
Vidvan kurvita manavaha.
Karmana tena rajendra.
Karmana tena rajendra.
Jnanena na sadipyate.
Jnanena na salipyate. Ya evam karma niyatam. Vidvan kurvita manavaha. Karmana tena rajendra. Jnanena na salipyate.
Ya evam karma niyatam.
Yamevam karma niyatam.
Vijan kurvita manava.
Vidvan kurvita manavaha.
Karmana tena rajendra.
Karmana tena rajendra.
Janena nasalipyate.
Jnanena na salipyate. All right, the synonyms, please repeat. Yaha. Anyone who. Evam. Thus. Karma. Activities. Niyatam. Regulated. Vidvan. Learned. Purvita. Should perform. Manavaha. A human being. Karmana. By such activities. Tena. By this. Raja Indra. O king. Jnanena. By advancement of knowledge. Na. Never. Saha. He. Lipyate. Becomes involved. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Narada Muni continued to speak to King Prachina Barishat. My dear king, any person who works according to the directions of the Vedic scriptures does not become involved in fruitive activities. Please repeat. Narada Muni continued to speak to King Prachina Barishat. My dear king, any person who works according to the directions of the Vedic scriptures does not become involved in fruitive activities. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Just as a government may issue trade licenses in order for its citizens to act in a certain way, the Vedas contain injunctions that restrain and regulate all of our fruitive activities. All living entities have come into this material world to enjoy themselves. Consequently, the Vedas are given to regulate sense enjoyment. One who enjoys his senses under the Vedic regulative principles does not become entangled in the actions and reactions of his activities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3:9, Yagyartat karmanaha, one should act only for the performance of yagya or to satisfy Lord Vishnu. Anyatra loko yam karmabandhanaha. Otherwise, any action will produce a reaction by which the living entity will be bound. A human being is especially meant to attain liberation from the bondage of birth, death, old age, and disease. He is therefore directed by the Vedic regulative principles to work in such a way that he may fulfill his desires for sense gratification and at the same time gradually become freed from material bondage. Action according to such principles is called knowledge. Indeed, the word Veda means knowledge. The words Jnanena Nasalipyate indicate that by following the Vedic principles, one does not become involved in the actions and reactions of his fruitive activities. Everyone is therefore advised to act in terms of the Vedic injunctions and not irresponsibly. When a person within a state acts according to the laws and licenses of the government, he does not become involved in criminal activities. Come on. What does it say? A man-made laws, however, there we go, are always defective because they are made by men who are prone to committing mistakes, being illusion, cheating, and having imperfect senses. The Vedic instructions are different because they do not have these four defects. Vedic instructions are not subject to mistakes. The knowledge of the Vedas is knowledge received directly from a god. And there is consequently no question of illusion, cheating, mistakes, or imperfect senses. They changed the database and it's like pops up at the top and pops up at the bottom. You can't read the text. Really a dumb thing to do. Why do they do like that? In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1, it is said, see, I can't find it here. Come on. There we go. All Vedic knowledge is perfect because it is received directly from God by the parampara, disciplic succession. In Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, first verse, it is said, Jane Brahma Lida Yad Adikavaye. The original creature of this universe, known as the Adikavi, or Lord Brahma, was instructed by Krishna through the heart. After receiving these Vedic instructions from Lord Krishna himself, Brahma distributed the knowledge by the parampara system to Narada, and Narada in turn distributed the knowledge to Vyas. In this way, the Vedic knowledge is perfect. If we act according to the Vedic knowledge, there is no question of being involved in sinful activities. Ya evam karmaniyatam vidvan kurvita manavaha karmanatena rajendra jnanena nasalipyate. Narada Muni continued to speak to King Prachina Bahishat. My dear king, any person who works according to the directions of the Vedic scriptures does not become involved in fruitive activities. Mukum karoti bachalam pankam lagayate gidim ajat klipa tamaham bande sigurum dinatarinum. So, very interesting verse. But even better is this ecstatic purport by Srila Prabhupada, which touches on many wonderful points. So Prabhupada, first of all, mentions about the government may issue trade licenses. That means that the government regulates commerce and business according to certain rules and restrictions, and that the people who are doing the business should get the licenses and follow according to the rules. And if they don't, then they're doing something bogus. And generally means that they're trying to get over on the government regulations and perform some illegal or black market activity in order to gain more profit out of greed. And as such, they become implicated potentially in criminal activities by which they have to pay fines or penalties or even perhaps jail time or, lose all their money. to the government because they didn't play the game by the rules. We've heard this before. You have to play the game by the rules. So, according to the Vedic culture, there are rules and regulations that are given for the human beings, and this is how you play the game of living in the material world. And if you play the game according to these rules, according to the Vedic injunctions, then you do not become implicated in sinful activity, but you become disentangled and liberated. And that is the whole goal of the human existence, is to become liberated from bondage to fruitive activities. So the whole system of the Vedas is there for the benefit of the human beings. But now no one is following anymore. Formerly, Prabhupada mentions how the Vedic culture was spread all over the world and was influencing all the societies and civilizations. But that's been quite some time since that was taking place. It is a distant or non-existent memory in human society, although we see remnants there in India, where people, by their nature and by their piety, are inclined to follow Vedic injunctions because they know that if they don't, then they become implicated in sinful activities. And to become implicated in sinful activities means to get punished or accrue reactions, bad karma, for those activities which are not done in the regulated way. And because the people have this innate understanding is built in the culture, they're very much afraid of acting, some of them, not all of them anymore, but they're afraid of acting in the illegal or sinful ways because they don't want to get the reactions and they don't want to suffer. You know, if you call for a show of hands, who wants to suffer? You know, who will raise their hand? Some fool or some crazy person. But everyone else is like, oh no. They're afraid to do anything wrong or sinful. And in the West, in our culture, we're like, something wrong, something sinful? Yeah, baby, bring it on. That's what it's all about. You know, what is that song by, I think, Eric Clapton? After midnight, we're going to let it all hang out, right? So the sinful activity becomes the attractive feature. And, you know, karma and reaction be damned because they're absorbed in ignorance. And therefore they think, oh, it doesn't matter. No, there's no karma. It's like, whatever. You just do whatever you do. And sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not, whatever. It's not a problem. Any sinful activity is completely fine. It's not only permissible, but it's highly desirable. And in many cases, it is the goal of the civilization. So that's a civilization of fools and rascals. And so most of us have grown up in that civilization, and we're very comfortable in that paradigm. So to change direction, to change course, and become Krishna conscious may be a bit of a struggle for us at times, because we are conditioned or trained up in the wrong way, avidhi purvakam. Even Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita, yajanta vidhi purvakam, that some people are worshiping the demigods for fruitive results in their activities, but actually they're worshiping Krishna, but they're doing so in a wrong way. Avidhi purvakam. So you can apply that avidhi purvakam to the whole materialistic culture. People want to obtain a good destination and happiness, but they don't have any idea how to do it. So they're doing everything wrong, according to the demoniac outlook of life. This demoniac consciousness has spread throughout human society and become prominent and prevalent. And as such, people are glorifying the demoniac mentality when it's exhibited by certain crazy leaders. And people worship that and think, oh, that's great, because the certain crazy leader, he wants to arrange everything for his sense gratification and his friend's sense gratification and punish anyone who's not his friend, and consider them an enemy and stamp them out. And I want to be the friend, and I want to get the benefit of that wrongly conceived mode of life. So everyone wants to get over on the system. And that is a very powerful drive for the misguided and unfortunate living entity. So that's the way it goes in Kali Yuga. They call it the rat race. One rat climbing over the other, trying to get to the top like a bunch of rats. What finer sentiments do the rats have? Oh, this cheese is better than that cheese, or this is garbage in the street is better than that other garbage. And we all the rats, we want to go to France because they have the best cuisine and therefore the best garbage, the French garbage, better than the American garbage. But they're all rats and they're all eating garbage. And the finer sentiments that are meant to be upheld and maintained by the human beings are thrown out, abandoned, because it's the rat race. And if you're going to be a part of the rat race, you got to be a rat. So therefore the rat consciousness is embraced, and it is explored. It is, let us become the best rats we can. We can write books about rat psychology and rat sense gratification. What is the best thing for the rat nose and the rat tongue and the rat claws and so this way the rat civilization, which is also in Bhagavatam compared to Dvipadapashu, those are animals, but mostly the animals have 4 legs, but there's one animal that has 2 legs, the 2-legged animal, Dvipadapashu. And that is a human being who has abandoned the standards of human civilization that the Veda culture gives and taken to that animal life. Then he's no better than an animal. Savid varahusta karai samstuta padasha pashu. Men who are like animals, like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. We've discussed this before when we were talking about the names of different rap stars and assigning to them the different animals from the verse. Remember that? We were doing that. So that's a lot of fun and everything, hilarious. But we can make fun, but it's actually serious business that the human being is not meant to live like that. Saiva Gokaraha, that's explained in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, that one who he thinks Boma Ijadi, that the land I have taken my birth in is worshipable. It's a holy place. Just like Vrindavan is a holy place. Why? Because it's Krishna's place. Krishna has appeared there, he performed his activities there, his activities with the gopis and the cowherd boys and Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj and all the residents of Vrindavan who are his associates from the spiritual world. They've come there and appeared there and performed their pastimes there. So it's a holy place. But someone who's like an animal is thinking, Boma Ijadi, that my place, I have taken my birth there, therefore it is a worshipable place because I have appeared there and I am worshipable. That's just a foolishness. What nonsense. I was born in some little town in South Carolina. For me to think that that place is worshipable is laughable. It's laughable. When I was a little kid there, my brother had a pet chicken. Is that a holy place? The little boy had a pet chicken who would run around the yard and peck and squawk. No, of course not. It's preposterous. But one may be born in New York City. Oh, yes. That is the epitome of culture, the land of economic development and the best of the arts and literature and, the museums and Times Square. Oh, wait a minute, Times Square, not such a great place. Oh, they cleaned it up, that's right. It used to be just like a bunch of porn shops. So, one devotee told me they used to live in New Jersey, and they would ride their bikes into New York City because they have a pedestrian walkway on the bridge, and you can go across the bridge, the George Washington Bridge or whatever bridge it was, and the Triborough Bridge, and they could go into New York, and they would go to Times Squares to the porno shops because they were like the naive kids from New Jersey, and they didn't have that stuff in the suburbs. But in New York City, oh yes, they have all the hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, and forbidden fruit of sense gratification. Imagine some like 7th, 8th grade boys, on their bicycles, adventuring in to enjoy and get a glimpse of that which is forbidden and are unavailable in the nice clean suburbs. Of course, those nice clean suburbs, a lot of them are ghettos also now in New Jersey. Very dangerous places. So the human civilization is meant for something far different than that. And the Vedic culture gives the direction for that. And the basic principles are laid down here. Prabhupada quotes the 3rd chapter, 9th verse of the Gita, Yagyartat karmano nyecha lokoyam karma bandhanaha. That whatever you do, whatever work that you perform is meant to be offered as a sacrifice to the Lord. Yagyartat karmano nyecha. Otherwise, lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Whatever that work you're doing that's not offered as a sacrifice to Vishnu, that work creates reaction, bondage, entanglement, and it accrues sinful reaction. Just like it is said that those who, in the Gita, said that those who eat food which is not offered to Krishna, not offered in sacrifice, then they verily eat sin with every bite. So every bite they're taking is another bite of sin. And each sin accrues more karma and more reaction. And one is hopelessly entangled in this cycle of sinful activity and bad reaction. It's a very scary proposition. Therefore, that's why the people in the pious cultures, they're afraid. No, I don't want that. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of repeated birth and death. Those things are forbidden. We don't do those things. And the Americans think, oh, those foolish people, they don't know, they're missing out on everything. They're not enjoying anything. We're enjoying like anything. But they're more intelligent because they're thinking, this is not good. I don't want to go to some hellish planet or even take another birth. I don't want to do anything like that. They're afraid, and rightly so. But Prabhupada says, you Westerners, you diseases, that you are not afraid of Maya. Oh, Maya, yes, she's my best friend. She's got all the good stuff. She got all the goodies. She knows how to do it right. We love Maya. So that is the difference between we can paint this distinction between the pious culture and the impious culture. And therefore we take to Krishna consciousness and we abandon that mentality of the impious culture with which we are moved so easily within its confines. We give that up. We realize that is not beneficial for us, that we take to the prescribed activities of devotional service, which means that we eschew meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. I mean, right there, you've pretty much taken up like 90% of most people's dreams and hopes. Even if they don't get to do everything they'd like to do in those 4 areas, they're thinking about it. They're hoping against hope to enjoy something that is not beneficial for them. Therefore, one should take to the path of Krishna consciousness and follow the regulative principles and chant the holy name. And that chanting of the holy name is so powerful that one can give up the lower modes and the attraction, or even if the attraction remains, one can give up engagement in the sinful activities and thereby make nice progress. I saw this one tape, there was a video of, who's got tape anymore? It's digital video. But there was, they were having a big parikram in Mayapur. And this one Prabhupada disciple from the West, he was there. And so they were, ringing the microphone, asking, well, what do you think of this parikram? He said, oh, this is wonderful. He said, I just want to partake of these activities and become a nice devotee. His aspiration was, I'm coming, he's without saying it directly, he's expressing, I'm coming from this background of this Western culture, but I actually want to become a nice devotee who loves Krishna and does only the right things, the good things in devotional service. And that was very impressive to me to see that. He expressed it very nicely. Yes, this is what we are all aspiring to. Yes, we want to become nice devotees, good devotees, who don't partake in sinful activity and are not attracted to it or attached to it. Or if we have some purva karma, some previous attachment or attraction, we push it aside and fully embrace Krishna consciousness wholeheartedly, heart and soul, as they say. So, Yagyartat karmanan yatra, everything, Prabhupada said, everything is for Krishna, everything done for Krishna. And that way one is liberated, one doesn't experience, one becomes free. What does Krishna say? Aham tvang sarva papebhyo. I'll take away all your bad karma that you had from before. Aham tvang sarve papebhyo. Sarva means all, and papebhyo means sinful activities. I'll take away all your sinful reactions. Don't worry about it. I got you covered. Just become a nice devotee. And then everything will be adjusted accordingly. So that's a real bargain. That's a real deal. You don't have to pay all your past debt, your karmic debt. You just surrender to Krishna, and Krishna will wipe the books clean. And don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. We won't refer to it anymore. You just be a devotee and serve me, and then everything will be adjusted accordingly. That is a good deal, because normally you have to go through all these reactions for who knows how many billions of lifetimes of doing all the things that we should not have done to begin with. So Prabhupada talks about Vedic knowledge here in the purport, that it's perfect because it comes from God. That's explained also in the 6th canto. Dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam navaivido rashi anapi deva nasidabhukya sada manusha katona vidyadana charanaja. That dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam, that real religion is that dharma, which is shakshat bhagavan, given directly by God. That is Vedic knowledge. That is the real religion. Not some speculation, not some concoction, not some watered down version. Generally speaking, we see in the Kali Yuga that what passes for religion, or the versions of religion that become manifest, are far watered down from their original formulas and intentions. The purity is lost and it's compromised. We would shudder to think of a Krishna conscious movement in the future where they have 3 regulative principles instead of 4. Okay, Prabhu, it's the year 2,894. And you're going to follow the regular principles? Yes, yes. And what are they? There are 3 regular principles. No meat, no fish, no eggs. I follow those 3 strictly. Never deviate. No meat, no fish, no eggs. That's it. The 3 regular principles. Yes. What kind of religion is that? What about no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex? Oh, you're supposed to do that too? Well, come on, man. This is the year 2894. We don't have to do that anymore. That was like back in the old days. Way back in the early part of the Kali Yuga. But now we're more advanced. So we shudder to think of that, but that's what happens. The principles of religion become compromised. And the followers, they make some adjustment, some arrangement for sense gratification. But Lochan Das Thakur says, Paramakaruna, Paundui Nittai Gaura Chandra, that no one is more merciful, Paramakaruna, than these 2 lords, Nittai and Gaura Chandra. Saba Avatara Sarasi Ramani, Kevala Anandakanda. Of all the incarnations, Saba Avatar, of all the incarnations, no one is more merciful than Chaitanya Nitai. Because their way of self-realization, which is the chanting of Hare Krishna, it is Kevala Anandakanda. It is simply blissful path to follow. Therefore, he exhorts, Baju Baju Bai, Chaitanya Nitai. Just, my dear brothers, just chant, Baju Baju Bai, just worship Chaitanya Nitai. Sudhira Vishwash Kori, but then he delivers the punchline. Vishaya Chariya, Sera Se Majiya, Muke Bolo Hari Hari. Vishaya Chariya, the only catch is you have to give up sense gratification. Oops, there it is. He didn't leave it out. He didn't compromise. He's saying, oh, it's so easy, so blissful. And then he says, Vishaya Chariya, oh, just give up your sense gratification. Oh, wait a minute now. What you talking about, Willis? That's asking a whole lot there. I mean, I could chant Hare Krishna, but I want me to give up my sense gratification. No way, Jose. But that is required. So, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu liberated Jagai and Madhai, we were hearing about Jagai and Madhai the other day from Ganga Mantri. He forgave them, and then he instructed them, like we hear in the Bible, go and sin no more. All right, so now you just engage in Krishna consciousness, and you are forgiven. Your sinful activities are removed. Go and sin no more. And they joined the association, the Sangha of the Vaishnavas. And no one ever referred to again, oh, you used to be a murderer and a rapist and a thief and the worst rascal in the history of Bengal. No, they became good devotees. All right, that's it. You're accepted. But don't go back to those old ways. Like Carlos Santana told us way back in the 70s, you got to change your evil ways, baby. So that is Vishayachariya. And then Muke Bolo Hari Hari. With your mouth, Muke Bolo Hari Hari, chant the holy names of the Lord. And then all success is there. Otherwise, this contamination tends to creep up because of Prabhupada mentions that Vedic knowledge is perfect because it's free from the 4 defects: illusion, mistakes, cheating, and imperfect senses. So the Vedic knowledge is not subject to those debilitating qualities. It is pure. But over the course of time, it does become lost. Krishna says that in the 4th chapter, when he's speaking of the parampara, which Prabhupada speaks of the parampara here in the purport. Evam parapara praptam imam rajarsayo vidhu, that this knowledge was passed down through diptic succession, and the saintly kings, ijam rajarsayo vidhu, they understood it in this way, and their culture, they transmitted this culture from generation to generation, and they maintained the proper following of the Vedic principles. But sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapra. Yogo nashta means that the principles were lost in due course of time. Therefore, Krishna comes again when the situation is such that the principles have been neglected, watered down, abused, thrown out, then he has to come again in due course of time. Yoga nashta parantapa. The whole thing becomes lost, like it never was there, practically. And that's kind of the current state of human civilization, which at one time was very powerfully under the influence of the Vedic knowledge. Now he talks about how this Vedic knowledge is passed down in parampara, and he mentions specifically Lord Brahma. And in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second line of that verse, Tene Brahma Hrida Ya Adi Kaviye Muyanti Yatsura Yaha. So Tene Brahma, in this case, the word Brahma means Vedic knowledge or spiritual knowledge. Tene Brahma Hrida Ya Adi Kaviye. Adi Kavi is Lord Brahma. Kavi means learned. Actually, Srila Prabhupada had a nickname amongst his godbrothers. They called him Kavi because he was very poetic and a writer. And Bhaktisiddhanta very much liked his writing, like his Vyas Puja offering, adore ye all this happy day. He was very pleased by Srila Prabhupada's poetic expressions and realizations and how he was understanding the Vedic Siddhanta. And he said that whatever he writes, publish it in our magazine. Anything he writes, you can publish it. And so they were all impressed by this. Oh, this Abai Babu, he may be a Babu. He's not one of the sannyasis, the brahmacharis, or the leaders. He's just an outsider, householder, wife and kids and all that, working. But he is learned. He understands the philosophy. He is Kavi. So they began to call him, that was his nickname, Kavi. Abai Babu, oh, Kavi-ji, Kavi Babu. And they respected him and loved him for him being his learning, his intelligence, his nice expressions of Krishna consciousness, which of course later became manifest as he made the whole world Krishna conscious, especially through his books. So talk about Kavi. Hey, you read Prabhupada's books, here's one of the greatest spiritual writers that ever set foot on Earth planet. So Tane Brahma, Hrida Ya Adi Kaviye. Adi Kavi means the original intelligent person, the original greatly learned person. That's Lord Brahma. Because sometimes we talked about this in the Sunday feast. The most intelligent person in the universe. He's the most qualified soul through his punya, his piety, and his knowledge and his realization. So he's given this post to Brahma, and he's not always in every case, but in the case of our universe, this Brahma is a great devotee. Sometimes the Brahma is a non-devotee. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I would rather take birth, kita janma how? Kita janma, birth, I'd rather take birth as an insect in the house of a devotee than to be a non-devotee Lord Brahma. So he doesn't want lordship over the universe. If he's going to be a non-devotee, he'd rather be a bug in the house of a devotee. Although he wouldn't want to be a bug in my house. Because I have a rule, no bugs in the house. They don't follow that rule, but I have a problem with cricket, a cricket manifestation. Now they came there, but they are hard to get rid of. So this Brahma, he's Adikavi, he's very highly qualified. Tene Brahma Hrida. So that spiritual knowledge of Krishna consciousness, Brahma Hrida, was given to him in the heart by Krishna. And that is in the Brahma Samhita. I'll read a couple of verses here from the Brahma Samhita about the realization of Lord Brahma. Let's see here. This is really nice stuff here. This is worth hearing, something that we don't hear that much of. Before the beginning of the Chintamani verses, which started text number 29. Let's see here. In text 26, there's a very long Sanskrit couplets. The translation is, Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka, Lord of Svetadweep, for a long time. His meditation ran thus: there exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its whirl, there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by amorous milkmaids, that's the gopis, with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. And the next verse says, then Gayatri, the mother of the Vedas, being manifest, that is, imparted by the divine sound of the flute of Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself through his 8 ear holes. So we're hearing with 2 ears. Brahma's got 4 heads. He's got 8 ear holes. So he can really hear. He can really tune in. The lotus-born Brahma, having received the Gayatri, sprung from the flute song of Sri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the supreme primal preceptor, Godhead himself. So when Brahma heard the sound of Krishna's flute, that was his initiation into Gayatri Mantra, which the Guru gives the disciple through the ear. And thus he became twice born, spiritually awake. So that is the Gayatri Mantra, is the sound of Krishna's flute, literally, not just figuratively. And then text 28, the last verse before the Chintamani prayers begin, says, Trayo prabodhata vidhir vigata tatvasagaraha tushtava veda sadena strotananena keshavam. And then Lord Brahma, being enlightened by the recollection of Gayatri, which embodies the 3 Vedas, he became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. So the ocean of truth of Sri Krishna became manifest in his heart, and he could understand about this expanse, this vast expanse of the ocean of truth, which is something that as a spirit soul, that will give us happiness when we become acquainted, even with 1 drop of the expanse of the ocean of truth, which is Sri Krishna. And thus, being enlightened by his recollection of that sound of Krishna's flute and that enlightenment that accompanied it, then he began to chant these prayers of the Brahma Samhita, which begins Chintamani Prakadasadma Sukha Pavreksha. So that is the journey, the experience of Lord Brahma that's revealed in the Brahma Samhita. It is so wonderful. It is so ecstatic. Just to churn that nectar of Lord Brahma's realization. And then Prabhupada mentions in the purport, he passed that knowledge down from Brahma to Narada Muni, who's speaking here, to King Prachina Bahishat, telling the story of the allegorical story of King Puranjana. And then from Brahma to Narada to Vyasadeva, the spiritual master Narada Muni, the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. And then Vyasadeva compiled all the Vedas and wrote everything down. So that is how the Parampara system, that's the beginning of the Parampara. And then who's the next person in Parampara in our disciplic succession from Vyasadeva? Who knows? Anyone know? Yes. Madhvacharya. Very good. I'm impressed that you know that. Yes. And Madhvacharya is in the modern era, but he went to the Himalayas and presented his commentary on Bhagavad Gita before Srila Vyasadeva, who's eternally living there in unmanifest realms in the Himalayas, but he was able to get his darshan. And thus he studied before Vyasadeva and became his disciple. Very fascinating. And then in Madhvacharya Sampradaya, who appeared? Sri Madhavendra Puri, who brought with him the seed of Madhurya Ras, of love of Radha for Krishna. And then his disciple, Ishvara Puri, and some say also Nityananda and Advaitacharya, received that knowledge in Parampara from Madhavendra Puri, and then the disciple of Ishvara Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Radha and Krishna himself. He doesn't need a spiritual master, yet he accepts a position in that disciplic succession, and then he passes it on his disciples, and it comes down to us in this way. So we will stop here due to time constraints. Just briefly, anyone have a question or comment? All right. I'm glad you knew that about Madhvacharya. Yes, you've been reading and understanding. That's very good. Very good. Well, he's a college student. He's supposed to read and understand. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.